Welcome back, everyone. We're here today with our Mindset and Motivation Monday. Thanks so much for joining me here on the Cabral Concept. Can't wait to get into today's show. And the topic is all about how to care less what other people think about you. Now, I think this is a really important one. And it's not just about you. It's basically someone else's thoughts, someone else's ideas, someone else's voice in our head all of the time. Sometimes it goes all the way back to childhood, thinking about, are we impressing our parents? Are we doing right by them? And it might just not be parents either. It could be grandparents. It could be friends. It could be those in the community. Anyone that we might look up to and that we're looking for approval. Now, sometimes as we get to be an adult, one of the interesting things is that approval seeking doesn't necessarily stop. Even though we become an adult now, we're on our own, we're paying our own way, we're making in life, we're the ones dealing with the challenges and struggles, we are still trying to impress other people. It could be our peer group, it could be our coworkers, it might be an organization that you're a part of, but oftentimes you're wondering, am I measuring up? Am I doing well enough? How do other people view me in their own eyes? So what I want to share with you here today is how to quiet those voices, because I know that when I talk on this podcast, the Cabral Concept, I'm speaking to anyone really interested in improving their overall life. Now, a lot of times we're talking about a health-based perspective, right? So we're trying to help people achieve their wellness, their weight loss or weight gain, their anti-aging longevity-based goals. And I love being able to help people with that. But so much of it comes down to the mindset. It comes down to being able to rewire a lot of the childhood traumas or beliefs or the subconscious mind in order to understanding that we can have and we can be and we can do anything with our life if we only sometimes just get out of our own way. So my goal with today's show is to quiet the voices. Some of them may be your own, but again, you picked up those voices from childhood or from being a teenager, hanging out in certain peer groups, or simply looking to be accepted in whatever organization you may even still be a part of. So what I want to do is share with you 7 specific ways. You don't have to use all of them, but I would start to integrate them into your subconscious mind, into your way of thinking, so that every time you catch yourself, and again, the biggest key always with succeeding in life is self-awareness. So as you become more self-aware and you catch yourself actually saying or repeating the voices that are judging you, here is what you want to do to quiet them. All right, the first one is this. It's understanding that whenever you're looking to do a new venture, so you're going to embark on a new relationship, you're going to embark on a new career. How about a new body transformation program? What about a new health and wellness program? How about spirituality? Well, the voice inside of your head is always going to say, yeah, but what if it doesn't work out? Right? What if you fail? And so what you need to be able to do, and strong enough, and all it takes is practice, just lots of practice. But again, you can do that because you're you, and you have you to be able to deal with these situations as the voices are always going in and out of our head, right? So instead of quieting them, just have a conversation, a gentle conversation, rather than just try to shout them out, right? So here's what we want to do, or let them win, which is even worse. So the first one is this, understanding that failure is necessary. Failure is simply a necessary way of going about life in order to do things that you've never achieved before. And we don't have to refer to it as failure. I never refer to it as failure. People say, like, what are your biggest failures? What have you failed at? I'm like, I don't know. Like, I don't know, because if it was important to me enough, I made a ton of mistakes. But then I learned from those mistakes. And what was I able to do? Well, finally figure out all of the different ways it wasn't going to work in order for it to work, right? So it's like, what have you failed at? Well, I failed at getting well for a good 10 years, right? Like it was a solid 10 years from 17 years old to 27 years old. However, it wasn't like I woke up at 27 years old and had it all figured out. No, like I took baby steps along the way. I met a course with my PCP, and then medical specialist all around Boston. And then after that, okay, I started to read books. Local library, Amazon wasn't really around back then. I don't think they were around at all. And started to learn more about my body in general. Then I started to get deep into nutrition. Then I found out about natural health and so-called alternative medicine, right? And then I started to do at-home lab testing. And then I started to use nutritional supplements. And then I started to understand food sensitivities in my gut. And then I learned about Ayurveda, and I started to just walk down the path, right? But none of those things worked all by themselves. None of them worked initially until I put the whole thing together. So did I fail for 10 years? Well, you could look at it that way, right? But what I did was I learned for 10 years. I learned what was not going to work, or truthfully, it was going to work, but it wasn't put together in the right way. So just understand that you have to fail. So the choice of, or the thought process of, oh, well, what if I fail? Okay, yeah, you're going to. So like, why don't I just get that right out of the way? There's no way that you're going to knock it out of the park the very first time. In your career, in your relationships, in your body transformation, your spirituality, or your health. Like those are the big five that I always talk about. There's just no way. So you've had a few relationships and you've learned from them, and now hopefully you'll be better this time around, right? Same with your career. Same with, you take your knowledge from the past and you bring it forward to the future so that hopefully your future continues to be better than your past. That's how I look at it, right? Always up leveling. All right, so that's number one. Number two is this: consider the source, right? Consider the source. Who are you worried about what they think, right? How to care less about what other people think. Well, who are these other people that are commenting to you, right? Consider the source. Let's say it is a family member. Let's say it is a friend. Let's say it is a coworker, a community, a person in your community. What does their life look like, right? Like, first of all, you're not judging them, but you're saying like, are they always the person though who's always negative, right? Like, consider the source. I know people, you share an idea with them and all they do is tell you exactly how it's not going to work, or they tell you what could possibly go wrong. They're just those people. They are the people that are not looking to necessarily work on themselves, to look at the brighter side of life, to get better in any way, shape, or form. They're perfectly content, and again, I would use that term loosely and very lightly, but they're perfectly content continuing to be on and go on with their life of being the negative person. So just consider the source. If the person's always negative and they share with you advice that it's not going to work out, well, yeah, but like that's who they are, right? So just understand that. That's okay. Let them be them, but you don't have to be them. Right? You get to be you. That's the amazing thing about being an adult. It's your choice now. You get to choose. And so I would always just say is just consider the source. This is included with family as well. If bad things, if challenges, if obstacles, or if Murphy's Law is always occurring to the person who's giving you the advice, you might want to do contrary to what they actually say to do, right? You might want to do the opposite, and that's not necessarily a bad thing either. Now, likewise, though, if the person's a solid source, if they're a trusted source, if they're living what you would consider a life that you want to try to emulate, listen to them. Like it's worth exploring their ideas or maybe their contrary beliefs. It doesn't mean that you can't go after your goal, whatever it is, but maybe they're giving you some insight. That's okay as well. But again, you don't need to be emotionally attached to anybody who's overly emotional about being negative in your own life, right? So like just consider the source. Now the one add-on to this, and this is number 3, is that if you're posting something online about your wellness journey, your body transformation, your relationships, your spirituality, your career success, financial success, whatever it might be, and people are leaving just nasty comments or whatever it might be, just first of all, understand, again, the source, right? Understand that it is online, right? It's the wild, wild west. People get to hide behind whatever their, made up name is or profile or whatever it might be. So just again, it's online, right? But let's just say in general, someone just does say something that is just not very nice in general. You have to understand this. And this was shared with me, I don't know, maybe 2-3 years ago, and it really changed my mindset. So I want to share this with you. It really did change the way that I looked at life. Someone said to me, and I wish I could give them credit, nobody more successful than you, or even at your level, ever punches down. And I was like, let me think about that for a moment. Okay, so nobody who's very successful ever punches down. And I said, okay, let me see if I can poke holes in that, because that's what I do, right? I try to be the skeptic. I'm like, is that true? And I'm like, no, only in very, very rare instances, and usually only when they're provoked. So think about this. You post something online. So for example, we have 5,000 integrative health practitioners in the Integrative Health Practitioner Institute. And people are posting, and I recommend that they're posting comment and they're sharing their truths. And a lot of people say, well, I'm just starting out, should I really post? I'm like, yes, you should. Because you now know more than 99% of the population. Like you are, a master in the de-stress protocol. If you've taken level 2, you know how to read at-home lab testing. Like you are an expert in the space. And for anyone like else, like for me to go on and be like, oh, what you're saying is not true, like that would be crazy. I don't do that to anybody, like literally anybody. And I don't know any of my colleagues and friends that do either. And this is one of the biggest things is like everybody who's successful is way too busy, nor are they interested, nor do they possess the type of negative mindset to ever go and comment on anyone else's social media, telling them any negative things like whatsoever. So again, trust me, anybody who's taking the time to leave a comment that is negative, they have, we'll put it this way, you would not want to trade places with them in life, right? So just understand that they are not necessarily where you want to be or what you want to emulate. All right, number 4 is this, and I love this. I mean, this is like, really, again, this was shared with me, I would say, even further, earlier in my career, maybe 10 years ago, but let's think about this. So in my career, I've worked with a lot of executives. I've worked with a lot of investors. And the best investors in the world, we're talking about like big venture capitalist companies or private equity companies and banks. They'll invest in, let's say, 10 companies. Typically, they'll have a portfolio of like 10 to 40 companies. Okay, but let's use the number 10 because it's easier math. So they fully expect, let's say they're investing, let's say they literally are investing $1 billion in their fund. Okay, so they expect $800 million, or 80% of the companies that they invest in, 8 out of the 10, to lose money, to just basically lose all their money. All right, I mean, I know it's crazy, but hear me out here. 10%, they expect to get essentially a break even or a little return on their money. So it's $100 million of the money. But the last 10%, 1 out of 10 companies, they expect that to do more than 10x what their investment was for the whole fund and be able to pay for all the others. Now, the interesting thing is they don't necessarily know in the beginning what that 10% is out of 10 that's going to do it, or 4 out of 40. They don't necessarily know that, which is why they need to invest in all 10 of those companies, right? And diversify their essentially investments in portfolio. Well, why do I share that with you? Because, the thing is this, is like the best people in the world, they're only getting it right 2, maybe 3 times. I like to use this in pro sports as well. Huge fan of baseball growing up, lifelong Red Sox fan. They hadn't won in forever, but I was still a fan, right? But listen to this, like the baseball players out there right now, if you are hitting the ball 3 times out of every 10 at-bats, you can basically strike out or maybe get a walk sometimes or fly out, whatever it might be. 7 out of 10 times, right? So 70% of the time you don't get on base. 30% of the time you do. So let's say you get a hit 3 out of 10 times. All right. Here's the crazy thing. You'll basically make $100 million in baseball as a pro baseball player if you can be a 300 average over the course of your career. Because if you're batting 300, you're going to continue to be picked up by team after team after team, right? And the baseball salaries now are absolutely insane. But here's the crazier part, because it's only 0.5 more on their average. So your average goes from 300, 3 hits out of every 10, to 350. If you can bat 350 over your course of your career, you're probably going to be a Hall of Famer. So 3.5 hits instead of just 3 out of 10, and you're in the baseball Cooperstown Hall of Fame. I mean, that's crazy, right? But like those are the statistics. So also understand that the very best in the world don't get it right every single time, right? They just don't. You can't. But the thing is, you have to get your at-bats. You need to try, and then try again. Again, 10 years of me trying to get well, I just didn't stop. That was it. Like that was my claim to fame. I didn't stop, and I learned so much along the way. And now I get to teach it to everyone else, right? So it's like, as they say, you turn your mess into your message. And I wish I knew I could quote that as well, but that's a really, really nice quote. We'll do a whole show on that on a future date. All right, the 5th one is this. People say like, oh, well, you've changed. You're a different person. The goal of life is change. There is no constant in life. It is constant change. You're supposed to change throughout life. You're supposed to develop as a human being. You're supposed to gather new knowledge, new insights, new intellect, right? And you're supposed to then embody that and take different actions. If you're taking the same actions as you were when you were a teenager and you met a lot of your friends, or even in your 20s or college, you haven't really progressed in life, right? Like, so anybody who says you've changed, you say, thank you. That was the goal, right? The goal was growth. The goal is always growth. If I'm the same person next year as I was this year, I'm disappointed in myself. My goal is not to change the good things that I like about me and hopefully some other people engage with as well. But the goal is to continue to change and develop and get better at life. Right? So anybody, again, who's saying, well, you've changed, again, life is about evolution. It is about change. It's about growth. There is only moving forward. You can never stay in place. It does not work that way. You're moving forward or you're getting left behind. My goal for you is to continue to optimize. Some days are better than others. I'm not gonna lie to you, right? Like, I have bad days. But when I have bad days, I try to keep it at that. It's a bad day. Move on the next day. Continue to grow. Continue to live life, continue to enjoy. The sixth one is this, is no matter what season you're in right now, no matter what phase of life you're in right now, because there'll be difficult times, that's the ebb and flow of life, is that it's a finite period of time. So when you're in your darkest moments, your worst moments, people are giving you a hard time, you can't seem to find that right person in your life, or wellness program, body transformation program, spirituality, career, etc., it doesn't last that long. It just doesn't. And so even though it might seem like it's taking forever, it's maybe been weeks or a couple months, it will pass soon enough. So just understand all of the voices, all of the people maybe commenting, all the people not believing you. I had people not believe in me for a long time. I had to believe in myself. That was it. And I had a couple people who believed in me. And all I needed was that one or two people to keep me going, to keep me pushing forward. And for me to just simply want to be better. For me to believe in me enough just to take the next step. I didn't always believe deeply, but I believed just enough in order to take the next step. And I also understood that I had no other choice. I didn't want to stay in the place that I was. So just understand that this moment right now, if you're in a difficult time, it's finite. It will pass. And it will pass very soon. It will. It doesn't last that long. And the last one, number 7, is this. Always be grateful. So whether someone has a negative comment, a positive comment, whatever it might be grateful for who you are. Be grateful for the journey that you're on, right? It's no one else's journey. You were given these unique gifts. It's the thoughts that you have in your head. It is the actions that you take. It is the emotions that you feel that you transmute into your life, right? And that's no one else's life. So for the most part, I always try to tell people, like, listen, life is good. You know, we definitely hit challenges. We definitely hit obstacles. But we're human beings. We're literally living and experiencing the human experience. We're moving through life. And as we move through life, we understand that we're not immortal. And no one else around us is as well. And that's very, very difficult. And if we go back to one of our previous statements, is that life is always changing. The only constant is change. Is that we have to understand that for all we know, because again, there can be an afterlife. We're not saying that there cannot be, but what we're saying is, at least right now in this physical realm, that it is our opportunity to enjoy and experience being a human and to experience this life that unfolds in front of us. And we don't always know what we're going to be given. But it is our job, and I really believe this, that our job is to succeed to the greatest of our capacity, to the greatest of our potential. And that is because I believe that the more successful you are, the better that you can then serve. So if you have more in your life, you can give more. I've just found that throughout my life. Like, the more I'm good, the more I feel solid and settled and safe, the more I feel like, wow, I've got a lot to give, and I want to give, and I want to serve. So genuinely, whether there's the haters out there, the naysayers, the non-believers, or people that are just not necessarily believing in you, that's okay. Overall, and I would say inherently, life is good. And you're going to meet so many great people along the way. The goal is just to find your people. Start to associate more with the people that you want to be like, the people that you want to emulate. You're not going to be them because you're uniquely you. But the goal is that the more good people you hang around, the more of their energy you absorb, the more you start to rewire that subconscious mind. And if you start to rewire the subconscious mind to care less about what people think, you can do more of what you want with your own life. Hopefully today's Mindset and Motivation Monday show is helpful. As always, if it was, please do feel free to share it with anyone you believe it could serve. Take care, everybody. Have a great week.